Breaking news today about electoral politics and disenfranchising black voters. Now, electoral politics never sounds like an exciting topic until it's election day. For example, Donald Trump went to bed on November 3rd, 2020, thinking that he had won re-election. He woke up the next morning and found out, nah, you actually got your ass kicked. You lost Michigan, you lost Pennsylvania, you lost Wisconsin, lost Arizona, and now it looks like you've lost Georgia, too. Georgia! Now, at least half of what ensued from that point on stems from the fact that the dim-witted Trump could simply not grasp the fact that rural voting machines contain far less votes than urban machines, so they get counted faster and reported earlier. So sure, when 70% of the vote is in and it looks like you have a lead, it's easy to think that you won. Trump could never get it through to the 4 neurons left in his brain that the remaining 30% is coming from urban areas, which frequently outnumber the total rural vote. He frequently asked, how could this happen? But then Rudy Giuliani gave him the simple explanation. It's because of black people. That part Trump understood. And then, being the good racist that he is, concluded, with the help of the racist Giuliani, that cheating was involved. And so, Stop the Steal became both myth and legend. A look at any electoral map reveals the same trend in most battleground states. Rural districts have a tendency to vote red, urban districts have a tendency to vote blue. And it's also true that in most battleground states, urban areas are where the black population tends to be most concentrated. Especially in states like Pennsylvania, Michigan, Ohio, and Wisconsin, black migration was based on getting jobs in factories, not obtaining farmland. Southern states have the same voting trends and demographics, although those states do have more rural black voters than in the North. As a result, in the balance between the rural versus the urban vote, black voters are key for the urban vote to outweigh the rural vote. How the black vote is distributed across districts, then, is absolutely essential for the number of black representatives in the legislative branch of the government. And this is the news that's breaking today. The Supreme Court, now infamous for its right-leaning partisan decisions, just decided to disenfranchise black voters in South Carolina. The New York Times is reporting that the court just voted 6-3 to keep black voters in South Carolina voting in only one district. Their decision overturns the unanimous ruling of the appellate court, which had found that the Republican-created voting districts were gerrymandered specifically to dilute the black vote and concentrate it instead into an existing black district. The Court of Appeals found that the redistricting plan moved 62% of black voters in Charleston County from the 1st District to the 6th District, a seat that Representative James E. Clyburn, a black Democrat, has held for 31 years. It was a plan designed to disenfranchise black voters, and the appeals court tossed it to the curb. And so Republican lawmakers ran as fast as they could to appeal the case to the Supreme Court. And today, after much delay, the Supreme Court overturned the decision, voting to keep in place the original plan to disenfranchise the black vote. It's not really hard to guess who voted to overturn the decision. Of course, it's the normal cast of characters. Leading the charge is Clarence Thomas, who holds special contempt for black voters having any kind of power at all. For Thomas, there is nothing more disgraceful or disgusting than lifting up the collective power of the black vote. The same is true of Alito, who basically thinks that we should go back to the original text and count 3/5 of the black vote. The argument they brought is ridiculous. With a straight face, South Carolina Republicans argued to the Supreme Court that the appeals court should have presumed that they had acted in good faith as required by Supreme Court precedent. Sounds good to me, said Roberts, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Coney Barrett. You can almost hear their thinking. Hey, black people still get to vote for a black guy? What's the problem here? The problem, of course, is that now, instead of Democrats being able to win 2 congressional districts, they can only win 1. And this, in a microcosm, is how Republican voters, who are in the minority in this country, are able to become the majority in the legislative branch. They have disproportionate voting power. And this arch-conservative Supreme Court wants to maintain that structural imbalance of power. Now just take a look at what happened in Michigan. After years of Republican partisan gerrymandering, voters put up a ballot initiative to create a nonpartisan voting district commission, and they won. And within the first year of nonpartisan redistricting, the disproportionate power of Republicans was diminished, both statewide and in federal elections. Nonpartisan redistricting creates political balance through proportional voting. This Supreme Court wants to make sure that doesn't happen anywhere else. And so Democrats are back at looking the same problem in the face again. What to do with a partisan Supreme Court that is eroding democracy and the democratic process. And as long as disproportionate power is the problem, there can only be one solution: expanding the court. Other Supreme Court reforms are necessary too. You would not, for example, need to amend the Constitution to curb the voting rights of justices to only 12 years. They can stay on the court, fulfilling the lifetime appointment, but they would not get to vote. The point is, Democrats need to campaign on reforming the Supreme Court. They need to put it front and center and run hard on it. The people who want gun control are waiting for that to turn into a single issue they can support. The people who want abortion rights are waiting for Democrats to turn it into a single issue they can support. And today's ruling makes clear, black people are waiting too. And they've been waiting a long damn time for justice. And they're not going to get it as long as justice has the last name Thomas and is allowed to have a vote on the court. I'm Anthony Vincent Gallo for Occupy Democrats.